From the Venture Accelerator at UCLA Anderson, Accelerate, an entrepreneurship podcast, hosted by entrepreneur in residence, Rod Kurtz.
Are tough times actually the best time to plan for the future? Welcome to Accelerate, a new podcast from the Venture Accelerator at UCLA Anderson. I'm Rod Kurtz, entrepreneur in residence, and I'm excited to introduce our next guests. Ksenia Yudina is the founder and CEO of UNest, a mobile app that makes it easy for families to save for college. UNest is an accelerator startup, and Ksenia is an Anderson alum. Baron Davis is also a proud Bruin. He was an All-American guard for UCLA, who went on to become an NBA All-Star during a 13-year career. More recently, you've probably seen him as a studio analyst for the NBA on TNT. But off the court, Baron has become a serial entrepreneur and investor with an impressive portfolio. And one of those investments happens to be in UNest. Welcome to you both. It's great to connect during crazy times. We had a chance to meet a couple of weeks ago, and I've really been looking forward to this conversation. But I want to start with you, Ksenia. Just what has life been like these days in the age of COVID?
Oh, hey, Rod. Great to be here on the podcast. The life was interesting. Definitely, it was different. It was different, like on a personal level and on the business level. I would say I expected it actually to be harder. Like when the pandemic happened and all people all of a sudden, just stayed at home. I was curious, like, what it's going to mean for us, for the business, for the operations, and actually the transition to home happened pretty quickly and smoothly for the team. And thanks God, like we are a software company, so we actually are able to work from home. What was surprising to me was that we actually experienced pretty rapid growth on the product side. And, as you mentioned, we're helping parents create, tax efficient college savings accounts. And I realized that as parents, started homeschooling and they observed the precious kids, studying so hard and like trying so hard, it actually prompted them starting feeling even more emotional, and start saving for education, like even more so. And I also think in the times of uncertainty, parents just like naturally feel more kind of concerned about the kids' future and start kind of caring about it more so. So I would say it's been challenging, but at the same time was pretty positive for the business.
Well, it sounds like you're taking it in stride. And, I've been saying from the beginning of this, unless you're 110 years old, none of us have ever lived through anything like this. It's the first of our generation dealing with a pandemic like this. But it's great to hear you're keeping positive and productive. Baron, over to you. What has life been looking like?
I would say for me, I would say before COVID, traveling a lot, networking, speaking on panels, a lot of biz dev. Shooting a movie, just doing a bunch of different things. Then COVID hit and I had to go home and I had to quarantine. And I realized that, hey, I can get used to this. I had traveled, for me, I like to set goals. And 3 years ago, I said, I'm going to travel to every conference and suss out every conference and meet people and connect, with like minds across the world. And, I guess my tour was coming to an end thanks to COVID. We had just finished All-Star Weekend. And so, I've really been like inside kind of using this time to, self-reflect, but also, kind of watch with a careful eye, companies and people in society and just seeing how, society is moving. And so, our platform, a lot of our business is digital. And so, we haven't been affected. I think we've been actually seeing a lot of great opportunity to invest in companies as well in this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that. I've talked to a number of entrepreneurs, including for this show, that are almost swimming upstream during this, that they're seeing the opportunity, rather than, cursing the idea of being on Zoom. They're embracing it. They can have twice as many meetings in a day as before. So Barrett, I'm wondering, because you have your hands in so many different ventures and partnerships and things like that, has it been easier or harder, dealing with this virtual environment?
Well, I would say it's been easy and hard. I would say, the easy part is you don't have to do anything. The hard part is when they figure out that, now everybody knows you're at home and you're taking calls. It's just really kind of fielding calls and sorting through. I would also say the hard part is getting to know the entrepreneurs over Zoom. And so that requires, like having a good sense of, people skills, knowing the question, just knowing how to interview someone, and also have to have a real conversation. I think that's been, challenging for some entrepreneurs that would probably do better in, like a physical setting. But, the entrepreneurs we've been dealing with have been great, but it's been hard to kind of connect and really build the relationship that you want with, either entrepreneurs or VCs over Zoom. But it's a great place to kind of connect and keep people up to breast with what you're doing.
Yeah, well, we will handshake and hug again someday. So I think we're all going to be longing for that in-person connection. But I think it's also sparked new conversations like this. This whole series was born out of the fact that we can't be on campus right now having these conversations, and we're reaching a wider audience as a result. And it's interesting you mentioned, the challenges of not having that in-person connection. I shot an earlier episode with Dean Osborne at Anderson, and he spoke to that and said the reason he and I were able to make it work over Zoom is because we already had that in-person connection, and we've had those in-person conversations. So I do think they will be coming back. It will be important, but in the meantime, we're all making do. Ksenia, I want to kind of jump back to the beginning. Where did you come up with the idea for UNest, and talk a little bit about how it works and how it's grown?
Yeah, sure. So the inspiration to start UNest was just me, first of all, seeing how many families have been affected by the cost of education. And I myself, I'm a big believer in education. I went to UCLA Anderson to get my MBA because I knew that it's going to open a lot of doors, that it will expose me to a ton of opportunities, will just open the horizon, but education comes with a cost. So I graduated from UCLA Anderson with, about like 200,000 in student loans, and I've seen how many families, like family after family, have been affected by it, and it's really like devastating. And that wasn't even like the highest cost. Like one of my best friends graduated from USC last year with $500,000 in student loans to become a dentist, and I know that she is going to be extremely successful. I don't have a doubt about that, but it will be a drag on her future, right, for years to come. And then, like on the other hand, like from the professional standpoint, I joined Capital Group, which is the largest provider of 529 plans in the nation, which are tax-free college savings plans. And I realized that, gosh, like there is an opportunity to make those plans much more efficient, accessible, affordable, and get them into the hands of people of all economic backgrounds, of all income levels, not only to my clients at Capital Group who were like high net worth individuals and could afford it regardless. So that was like an inspiration. I also was a parent myself. I started getting a lot of questions from my friends who graduated from top schools and started having kids, and they were concerned about their kids' future. And when I proposed solution that we use at Capital Group, I just realized that it's not going to fit their need, as a new generation.
Absolutely. And I'm guessing when you started, you didn't know that you'd have a legend of Westwood coming on board. Barron, I'm wondering, you've been very entrepreneurial off the court, like I said, with your hands in a lot of ventures. How did you guys first connect, and what drew you to UNest and Ksenia and the team?
Ksenia, how did we connect? Who connected us? We have so many connecting points.
We connected through Anthos, who was
that was real. Yes. One of the investors was like, hey, you should check out, this woman's platform. She's incredible. She's a Bruin. And I remember just kind of doing a little research, like, oh, she's a Bruin? Sign me up. Bruins are great.
We stick together.
We do. We have to do more. And with Ksenia, for me, it was like intent meets purpose, right? And here you have an entrepreneur, right, that is, a big part of the minority culture of entrepreneurs, right? That's taking, her specialty, right, and her gifts and applying it, to an overall structure that benefits everyone. And so for me, it was just easy. I would say, right, to say it was easy for me to say, yes, I'm in. How can I do it? Here's ideas. And, being from LA, kind of coming from South Central Los Angeles, I got a scholarship to UCLA. But I remember being around during, all the different propositions for schools. And, I remember the Black Student Union at UCLA. And, you start thinking about the things that we don't know, right? And the things that we can do when we're young, and our parents can do when they're young. And just from an accountability, responsibility standpoint, I wanted to pour in because this is something that can solve a lot of problems, right? This is something that can, ignite a lot of pathways. And I think for me, it was, for me, even personally, because I have kids, right? I was like, this makes sense for me because I want to see what I'm doing and how I'm impacting my kids' future, right? I want to hold myself accountable. I want financial advisors telling me what I have to do. I want to put more, I want to learn. And I think, being, 40 years old, out the MBA, and now starting to learn through this platform is, for me, an opportunity to share that with my friends and also to build, scholarship programs. Now I know where to go, where my money will be safe, where my money will grow, and where there's people who, have the intent and purpose, behind the things that I want to do.
Absolutely. And what I think is great about the concept, it's really two-sided. Not only does it open up more educational opportunities for young people, but it also eliminates or helps alleviate the burden that they're going to feel once they graduate. So it's not just getting in and having that opportunity in the first place. It's having the opportunity to grow as a person, after college. So, Ksenia, I think Barron kind of answered this question for you, but what was it about him that drew you in? There are a lot of people out there with checkbooks, but it's about finding that right match. What did you see in Barron when you first connected?
Yeah, no, definitely. It was like, from the first sight, I realized that, our values are perfectly aligned. I talked to Barron and he said, like, look, I have 2 kids. I totally get it as a parent, but I also get it as someone who is interested in changing the future of the entire generation, creating equal opportunities for all. And I shared our mission that we're trying to democratize access to financial advice and, solutions that help families save for their kids' future. And Barron was like, yes, I get it. I want to put my money into this company because it's so aligned with my values. And when we were looking for that perfect ideal match as a brand ambassador, what we cared about is family values, right? We needed someone who is a parent, who can understand that solution and who can, relate perfectly and kind of spread the word, right, in the community, in the society, and just help us on this mission.
And so, Barron, what does your involvement look like? What's sort of your day-to-day as it relates to UNest? How involved do you get? How long has it been as well? I'm curious.
This has been recent. I would say we're about a month in, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Since the announcement, I would say because I run a strategy marketing firm and do a lot of biz dev. So wherever I go, UNest comes with me. And for me, I think it's really people use the word ambassador and say, oh, let me stand in front of the camera and let me get an audience. I don't look at it like that. I look at it as how can I kind of champion this mission? How can I bring like-minded people to the platform? But also strategically, how can we build foundational elements, right? How can we build, a partnership with, our big factory and our big workshops where now, big corporate ventures, instead of just donating the foundations, they're actually donating to an account where we can now, give away scholarships in the forms of hackathons, and, teaching kids more experiential learning and being able to, invest in their college and invest in their college future. But also knowing that while we're investing in their future, they're actually learning before they get to college, right? Because I remember when I got to college, it was like, oh, now I have to learn how to research what I want to be, right? And so, to Ksenia's point, you're $250,000 in, and you're like, oh, now I have to go get a job, right? And, just want to start really being able to create measures, to create, I would say, stepping stones, create partnerships with different, charitable organizations, also different, funds that a bunch of athletes and myself, we're coming together to create a scholarship fund for kids in LA. And so, when I look at a platform and our partnership with UNest and Ksenia is really just champion the brand and create leads and say, hey, you want to meet these guys? Hey, you want to meet these people? You want to meet, here's a partnership over here, and really just trying to be holistic and authentic, with understanding the message and being able to carry on the message.
Well, I've spoken and interviewed a lot of quote unquote ambassadors over the years, and I can tell you're fully all in on this, and you know the concept and not just a pretty face in front of the cameras. Ksenia, what has it meant for you as a relatively young startup to have a literal all-star on board? It's an opportunity I don't think a lot of companies at your stage have. How has this been working for you, and what has the exposure and the awareness that Barron has brought meant for the company?
Yeah, so first of all, Barron has been an amazing inspiration for the entire team. Everyone loves him, respects him. He is a role model for us. So like the minute I announced to the team that, Barron is coming on board as ambassador, it just like helps so much with team culture and drive. And yes, we want to do it. It's another milestone. Second of all, we just recently closed Series A round. And, it was pretty actually remarkable round because we closed it in the middle of pandemic. And I know that a lot of companies haven't been that fortunate. And Barron has been a part of it, right? He participated in the round with like real check with money. So it's not just like he's not just ambassador on paper. He actually money where his mouth is. And we did do a press announcement. We got a great exclusive coverage with TechCrunch. And it was picked up like across the board, like national and local publications. And that's just like a first step for us, right? And we have like the whole program kind of developed, what we can do together and how we can spread the word, up to the point where we actually want to focus, on minorities, right? And kind of make sure we support those kids that need education the most, because education is a ground zero, right? We want to give everyone equal opportunities when they're little, right? And we're thinking about like a lot of things, what we can do with gifting. How can we get corporations involved, foundations involved, brands involved to support those kids, even if their parents cannot contribute into the account? How can we get them a head start?
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So
we do a great job. I would like to say we've been having like some amazing, behind the scenes brainstorms. We've done a couple town halls, and I think, just for us, it's to amplify what Ksenia is doing in UNest as the leader in the space. But just like our big town hall on education, bringing in other leaders, right, and other foundations and strategy people and investors, and like having real discussions, right, where we can put our cards on the table. And, because UNest is the leader in the space, they can claim that space and say, we're actually doing the work. Yeah. And now that's another great way for us to not only, create partnerships, but really like always stay ahead of the curve and point it in the right direction, because we're listening, to the best people. And I think, UNest has an incredible team. And, as far as execution, as far as listening and learning, marketing, strategy. And I think it when you're in business or investing or working with companies, there's nothing better than, brainstorming and coming up with great ways to create impact.
Love that. Love that. So Baron, I'm wondering, you grew up in LA, you played and went to school at UCLA, you're a businessman and investor in LA now. I'm wondering, at large, how do you think the entrepreneurial scene has changed over, say, the past 20 years or so? And what role does Anderson and the Accelerator, you think, play in the startup scene here?
Yeah, I think, 20 years ago, I would say I was 2 years removed from college. I just fired my agent and I did a deal with Vitamin Water because they didn't have enough money to pay me. So I took equity. And
smart move.
And so you look at it, fast forward today, and then I was able to invest in Vitamin Water as well. But you fast forward today, and that's sort of the nature, the structure, the cadence of, I would say the way athletes are going about creating partnerships, sponsorships, right? It's not just an endorsement deal. It's investing in ambassadorships and figuring out, who they are and what they love. And then on the other note, it's the entrepreneurs, right? Figuring out that, hey, we can take onus of our own culture and our own future. And through digital, we can build and find the teams that we want. We actually know, like, hey, our research says this person works for us, you know what I mean? Or this type of personality. And so, I've seen a great deal of change. I think, UCLA for me, I think now just with the incubator and the Anderson School of Business is just really for us is to be able to partner and find those entrepreneurs, right? To come back to the school and, maybe be able to create workshops where, we can catch you early, right? Catch and create and proof of concept things early, but also create a pathway for a lot of the people in the business school to find these, incredible jobs working with, incredible entrepreneurs like Ksenia. So I think that, the Anderson School of Business is definitely in a position to, you always hear about SC and their big announcements, but I think it's an opportunity for us, as a Bruin clan to start to rally, all of the successful people into this program, right? And create, pathways to success and always give back opportunities, right? So now these young minds that are coming through, they have exits, right? They have success coming out of, and not just a degree, looking for a job,
Well, I like this idea of a Bruin clan. We gotta stick together.
Yeah.
Ksenia, sort of a similar question for you. Wondering, especially during this chaotic time, what lessons are you drawing upon from your days at Anderson and the Accelerator? How did both experiences, sort of help you weather the storm?
Yeah, I found tremendous value, even like post-school in Anderson Connection. So first of all, the first thing I've done when I decided to jump the ship with Capital Group, start my own business, is I went back and I took the class on business plan development, because I was thinking to myself, how little do I know about actually building the business, and how do I get this company off the ground? I have this vision and this idea, but how I actually transform this idea in a viable business. So I did that, and then I joined Accelerator with Trish and Janet, and that was an amazing experience as well. They opened the network for me. They connected me to the right people. They provide the right resources, the right knowledge. We had a lot of workshops and sessions where we've been just exposed to areas of business and the experts. And they gave me a lot of confidence, just kind of hey, you can do it. We can build it. You have our support. You have support of the whole school, and you have resources that you need, and you can always rely on us. And through Accelerator, like I've been connected to some other investors that actually invest in the company, and I've been connected to some advisors that helped me with recruiting. For example, we've been able to build an amazing team because someone at Accelerator connected me to another entrepreneur, who connected me to someone like at Acorns, who connected me to the right person to come on board. So yeah, I found like tremendous value in this relationship.
Well, that's always great to hear. That's why we do what we do. Baron, I want to jump over to you. One of the things I've been focusing on from the beginning of this situation is the idea of pivoting, that the most successful entrepreneurs who are in some ways thriving during this have made a pivot. And I don't have to tell you, pivot is literally a basketball term. So I'm wondering, how have you either, personally, professionally, or both made a pivot during this time, and why has it been successful for you?
Well, I would say, we definitely had to, pivot when COVID hit. I would say our pivot was really accelerating on what we were building. Like we did not expect a pandemic. We did not expect sports to stop. But, there was always on the whiteboard, like, if sports ever stops, and take a minute to see like where the content was, things like that, where the culture was, like you realize that it's too many channels and not enough just one good platform for, sports, lifestyle, and culture. And so for us, it was just strategy. And I think the most important thing is not being stuck on being hyper competitive, even though you have competitors in your space. Learn from them and study their mistakes, right? Also study what they do well and be nimble enough to receive information.
Awesome. Ksenia, what about you? I've been making the argument that a lot of what companies and just us as human beings have been forced to do during this time is actually stuff that we should have done anyway. And some of these pivots will actually make your company that much stronger when we get to the other side of this. So I'm wondering, first, what are some pivots you've made with UNest, and which ones do you think are sort of here to stay once we come out of this?
Yeah, my philosophy is that the strongest company is not, the best company is not the strongest one, the one that adapts the best to the changing circumstances. And yeah, we had to make a couple of pivots, both like on the business level and just like from the operation standpoint. On the business level, when we started our company, we focused specifically on 529s. And in my mind, as a financial advisor, I was always thinking that this is the best way for people to save due to tax advantages and the fact that, it's specific to education. What we learned from our users that are more of the low to mid-income consumers is that they want to save and invest for their kids, but they do actually want to have a little more flexibility in terms of like what they can invest for. For some people, they just want to allocate some funds for maybe like their first house or the car or the wedding day or for the education, right? Like whatever is the preference. And our target market also tends to rely a little more on financial aids and scholarships. So we decided to kind of expand our product offering. So right now we are introducing a new account type, which is also an investment type with some tax advantages, but actually has more flexibility than a typical 529. So that was like an interesting pivot. From the operational standpoint, like obviously when we started raising the Series A, the plan was let's go to New York and San Francisco, meet with all those like amazing VCs that been like, just hitting my mailbox all this time. And my April was just like booked with travel. I had to cancel everything because we just went on this lockdown overnight and we had to come up with another strategy. We had a lot of confidence and support from the existing investors that we're ready for the next round. So basically the way we adapted and adjusted our strategy was to just like reach out to the existing investors and say, like how do you want to do it? And they said, okay, we're going to lead. And we actually, took the lead check from the existing investor in the round. But everyone else, came up with a pro rata, and we're happy to just jump on board and support the company.
That's great. That's great. So, Baron, as I mentioned, you're a serial entrepreneur and investor. I think as a result, you really have your hand on the pulse of a lot of different industries because you're spread out so much. More broadly, beyond your personal pivot, what do you think are some of the changes we're seeing that will be here to stay? Is it more Zooming? Is it more working remotely? Good and bad. What do you think is sort of here for the foreseeable future? I think we lost your audio, my friend.
I definitely think that it'll be a virtual world. Our world is definitely going to look like this. I think the way we connect is going to look like this. I feel like sports, entertainment, people are going to start to have to modify, the way that they create content, right? And also the way that they connect with people. So, people are now starting to create their own Zooms, their own, Zoom apps. You got Cameo, you got House Party, you have Push, you have, Hopin. And so there's, a bunch of different platforms that are starting to, come to fruition that have been in this virtual space. I think on the physical side of things, you're going to see a huge change in culture, right? People are going to have a different way of relating with people. People are going to, sporting events won't be as populated as they were, concerts, etc. But, I think that you'll see more viewership go up, right? But, just the fandom, the fan experience is going to also have to translate to this virtual world. So, I know VR and AR and, all of these different devices that they've tried, but in the NBA, as far as like sitting on the court, with some VR headsets, those things are going to be realized. And now you're going to be able to, kind of live in that world, and that's going to become a new normal situation. But for the NBA, they may have way more opportunities to sell, floor seats to a game than just the 16 floor seats that they had, right?
From a business standpoint, what do you think of what's going on? How will it work? And do you think, the NBA is leading in a sense by pushing forward with this?
Yeah, we got to get back to sports. We got to get, figure it out. I think the NBA was the leader in stopping. And so, when you look at the bubble, talking to a lot of guys, it's a new experience. Some guys are super excited. Some guys are like, this, brings me back to my AAU days. But really, it's, I'm excited for it. I think the NBA is definitely the leader in the space and one that we should trust, especially the NBA and Disney, as far as, being able to pull it off. So, just excited about the season, excited about the guys. For Slick, we will be going live with some of the guys from the bubble and have, some shows with guys in the bubble, guys who are outside of the bubble. So, I think it'll be fun, and it'll be a different viewing experience, but I think it'll be something that, the fans will ultimately figure, once they get into it, they'll realize that they'll never have, probably if it goes back, they'll never have this experience again. And so it'll be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I can't wait to see how it unfolds, and some of the behind the scenes stories I think are going to be compelling. So I look forward to what Slick is doing. Just last question on that topic. What do you think we're missing culturally without sports? It hasn't been, I think, talked about as much as it should.
Connection.
Yeah.
The high fives, the you a bum, the I love you, you're my hero, can I get an autograph? To who's better, LeBron or Kobe or Jordan, like, those conversations, being able to, just kind of feel and numb ourselves and kind of, live in like an anxious, safe place. And I think that's the connection is what has been missing.
Absolutely. And we need something to cheer for. So, Ksenia, I know you're not building a bubble, but I know there's a lot in the works at UNest. What can we expect in, the next, say, 6 months down the road?
At UNest or in the world?
Well, start with UNest.
Look at my crystal ball.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to add something to what Varian said in terms of like, how the world's going to look like and what's changing and what's permanent and what's temporary. So I would say also like in the digital world, right, like the acceleration to digital definitely just was expedited tremendously because of this whole like COVID situation. And again, the trend was kind of favorable for us because the things that were supposed to happen in the financial industry, and financial industry is very conservative, hard to change, hard to move, very bureaucratic. Right now, like players just have to be had to, we're forced to change. Let me put it this way. And I am looking forward to the world where people are more on digital and more on mobile, and we can solve those like life and world biggest problems with the help of technology, and people actually kind of adopt the technology much quicker. So what's in the world? What's at stake for us in the next 6 months? So as I mentioned, we are transitioning to the new account type. So we basically are going to try and make all types of financial solutions that help parents to save for kids available to our market, not only educational, but any type of investment saving solutions. We want to introduce a gifting option, which was like so highly desirable by all of our users. People, especially parents, they don't have time, right? They don't have time to worry about registries. They don't want to get unnecessary toys. They just want something simple, convenient, quick, at their fingertips. So that's why gifting is definitely super important. And to what Barry said, like about connection, it also helps to create that kind of connection, right? Like this is about the kid, let all relatives, friends be a part of this kid's journey and help, to grow the, savings account or investment account. So definitely, building the team, adding more people on the team. We have a couple more exciting news that I can't announce yet. They're like still confidential, but it's very strong momentum. And the reason I'm excited for Bear and his involvement with the company is because he can now diversify. I know that sports is like super exciting, but technology and like what we're building and startup journey is like it's amazing. Like every day it brings something new, like, and a new challenge, a new excitement, a new person who gets involved, and new milestone that we reach. So I believe that, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Next 6 well.
Well, I was talking to an entrepreneur the other day, and he was saying, we're all sort of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but we didn't realize the train we're on is actually a roller coaster. But I think that's what makes it so fun to be an entrepreneur. I want to ask both of you, sort of your perspective on this and your advice on this, that as two entrepreneurs who I think are thriving during this. You're certainly, it seems like you haven't skipped a beat. Obviously, it's tough on us in different ways. But there are a lot of entrepreneurs, whether at the accelerator or at large, that haven't quite figured it out yet, and they're not quite as optimistic. So Baron, starting with you, what would your advice be to other entrepreneurs who are kind of hanging in there, but they're just not sure what they're supposed to be doing right now?
Yeah, I think it's, we talked about pivot, right? There is nothing stopping you from like starting over. You know what I mean? Or if you are seeing kind of like a dead end street or a cul-de-sac, and you know that you're gonna have to turn around in this pandemic, you know what I mean? I would say there has been other things that you've seen along the way. Also, get with the people who are like-minded. So the best ideas or the best concepts, or if you're competing in the same lane and not really in the same space, in the same space, but not necessarily in the same lane, start to work with people, right? Start to this next generation is going to be about who are the best CEOs that know how to collaborate, strategize, and get what's best out of their team and their partnerships. And so right now is a great opportunity for, someone who's struggling to figure out what are you struggling with, who could help you, and how to humble yourself and figure out like what is the greater goal and the greater good of what you're building.
And that gets back to your theme about connection. I think it certainly applies in business, and the entrepreneurs I've seen that are doing well are the ones that are teaming up in some way, even if it's informally having conversations like this, almost crowdsourcing our way to the solution. Ksenia, same question, what would be your advice to accelerator startups and beyond who are trying to find their way with this?
Yeah, I would say like the biggest challenge in the startup journey is probably raising the seed round, because like at the seed round, like you getting a chance, right? You're getting a chance to succeed. You're getting a chance to show your potential and what you're capable of. Without at first like seed round, like it's pretty hard to achieve anything or hire people without paying them salary. In order to get to that seed round, my advice would be just don't give up and be persistent, because it's totally okay at the seed stage to do a lot of things, accept lower valuation, share your equity, I don't know, do the crazy stuff. But it's not okay to give up, because otherwise you will never find out what's on the other side. And on the other side, things are so much more exciting, right? When you have that first check and you can finally, just, put it to work. You can finally build your company, and you can attract the right talent, and you can, put it in technology and marketing and do all these amazing things. So definitely the first advice, like, don't give up. The second advice, just to echo what Baron was saying, surround yourself with the right people. Get advisors, get experienced entrepreneurs who can actually provide value. Reach out to industry leaders, to industry influencers. I think the network is so important. Startup, venture capital, it's all people business. You need to build those connections. You need to build your network. And one person, like one right person, can open up their network. So just kind of keep grinding. Yeah, keep surrounding yourself with right people.
And I think like most things we've been talking about, that's good sound advice, even in normal times, but especially so now. I want to close with kind of more of a personal question. From the beginning of this, I've been reminding people that entrepreneurs are also human beings, and that sometimes gets forgotten in the rush to raise capital and grow and manage something like we're all experiencing. So Baron, I'm just wondering, how are you doing, as a person? How are you staying positive? I know you're staying busy and working out, some tips for people out there who are trying to figure this out on the personal level as well.
I have my kids. I have my kids to thank for that. I got my sisters, my friends. There's not a day go by where they're not talking about me or joking about me or making fun of me. So, so there's never a dull day, one in my house or with my friends and family. And, I'm doing pretty good. I think a lot of self-reflecting, starting to work out now, getting back in shape. And it's like, here's a great opportunity for a new beginning, and, to come out of this, just feeling better and more sharp than I ever have been.
Love to hear that. And Ksenia, what about you? What's your advice, and what's keeping you safe and sane?
Oh, it's hard to stay sane. But yeah, I also have my kids here, and of course, like, especially right now, I have to be like much more productive and work like many more hours. I was fortunate enough to have my parents here. They've been helping with kids. And I was lucky that they got stuck on this end of the world. They usually say time between two countries, and I'm like, how did they get so fortunate? Selfishly so. With the team, it was interesting because that it's hard to build the culture, right, or keep the culture, preserve that culture when you're working remotely. So we are trying to meet every day, at least like on Skype or Google Hangout, have all hands, and we are trying to have also like a social component. So on Fridays in the evening, we always have a happy hour where we just share like what we achieved as a team on professional level, personal level, where we're going, what we're looking forward this weekend. So I think that was like very helpful, just not only work, but also like trying to socialize, even like in remote setting.
Yeah, I think it's important, and the happy hours must go on, and we, like all great entrepreneurs, we gotta make do with what we have. So virtual is better than nothing. And Really appreciate both of you taking the time. I hope the next time we have this conversation, it will be in person, but really appreciate all the sound advice, and I know the audience does as well. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
I think that's a great note to end it on. I want to thank my guests, Ksenia Yudina and Baron Davis of UNest, two all-star UCLA alums. And thanks to all of you for joining us.
Thank you, Rod.
Stay safe, stay well. I'm Rod Kurtz.
This podcast is produced by the Price Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at UCLA Anderson. Learn more about the Venture Accelerator at UCLA Anderson by searching our hashtag UCLA Entrepreneurs or visiting our website anderson.ucla.edu/accelerator.